Soweto under fire. The country's largest township had a dark cloud hovering over it. June 16, 1976, presented a new form of resistance towards the Afrikaans language policy introduced under the Bantu education in 1953 under the then apartheid government. It was under Bantu education that the then apartheid government spent 644 rands on a white child's education as opposed to a mere 42 rands on a black child's education. It was such inequalities, coupled with the Afrikaans language being enforced on black students, that led to a revolt. On that fateful day of June the 16th, what was supposed to be a peaceful protest by black students against the Afrikaans language policy turned ugly. Police fired at thousands of protesting students, killing 176 of them and leaving thousands injured. It was such inequalities fought by the youth and political movements that paved the way to a new political dawn in South Africa.
People passed, people ran away, and this kid innocently raised his fist in a black power sign and said, "Power to this passing hippo." The hippo stopped there on the spot and they opened fire on this 8-year kid. When I went to the mortuary on the weekend, I saw this kid at the mortuary. She was riddled with bullets beyond recognition. The black student in South Africa is being fed the type of education that will domesticate him to become a better tool for the white man when he joins the working community. School libraries, school books, they've got nothing to do with civics or anything that is affiliated in any manner to politics. What happens is we are fed a lot of fiction stories. I could quote so many authors in fictitious writers that you would be surprised where I get them. Even our libraries are ill-equipped. You don't get much works on, say, democracy, communism, fascism, capitalism, and all that. We only know these things as concepts and something not within our world.
It's more than likely, Tsietsi, that you're being described up and down the country at the moment as a communist.
There is no truth in that as far as I'm concerned. It is just that in South Africa, if you're not doing what the government expects you to do, then you are a communist, of course.
As we interviewed Tsietsi Mashinini, the news came in of how successful the students' plan had been.
It makes me very happy, very happy.
What is it actually achieving now?
The idea is we blacks in South Africa do not have arms, and the only thing we can hit at the system with is just to cripple the economy of the country and make our faint cries reach the ears of the authorities. Because apparently if we demonstrate, they just shoot at us. And if they don't shoot, they detain a whole lot of students. Now we are trying to be as peaceful as possible. Detain the parents at home, and the parents are with us and they're prepared to stay at home as long as the students want them to stay at home. Now, with this, we believe the authorities will feel the pinch, and some way or the other, they'll have to succumb to our demands.
It's a very, very good morning and a warm welcome to Galaxy News. This is Pan-African Morning. Of course, it's June 16. What a memorable day. My name is Susanda Nomusaka Qabe Kuthoyi. Ntombazane yaphansi kamhlabeli nganomfule ngophuza ngiphuzukelekele. Inkomo zakithi ngayishiya zidla phansi emahlathini asekubandeni esigodini sakwaZibi. Phansi le kwamhlabeli ngana la ngibuya khona. Nkosazana, welcome to Galaxy News on the 16th of June, 2020.
Good morning. A very good morning to you. Yes, this is Pan-African Morning. I am Palisamu Juminyana. I'm telling you, I'm so excited to be here this morning. You know, this is June 16, and today we are actually commemorating the students who actually died in 1976 when they were protesting and marching against apartheid. But otherwise, a very good morning to you.
Hello, Northwest, East and Southern Africa, of course. Siyakubingelela sithi sanibonani sesingenile ke sisakaza bukhoma right here in the Republic of South Africa, in Midrand, in Johannesburg, right here by Gallagher Estate. Hey, you don't have any idea when it's still gonna get lit today because we have got a lineup of guests that are going to join us for today's show. It's gonna be a beautiful day. Of course, I was missing you guys yesterday. I wasn't around. I was busy with my exams. Hey, in
And you know, when you say that we're broadcasting live today right here in Gallagher Estate, you know, these are the reasons why we're here today, because of those children that marched in 1976, fighting for our freedom and making sure that today we actually enjoy this freedom that we're living today. As we are still shooting right here in the north, in Gallagher Estate, you know, right here in Midrand. So those are the reasons why we actually are here today, enjoying our freedom.
We're enjoying the freedom. I mean, guys, we can't be so much more grateful than we actually are today. So today we celebrate the lives of thousands of young people that were South Africans who actually once said enough is enough. June 16 and 1976 will always remain memorable in South African history. It was a day that shook South Africa and further undermined its already weak international position. It was a day where Soweto exploded massively. As we commemorate the 44th anniversary of June 16, comes the time when that we are faced with COVID-19. This proves yet another challenge that the youth, despite the challenges they are faced with, the challenges of access to education, the challenges of poverty, the access to, you know, opportunities, the struggle of a now generation can be accelerated through the use of technology. Take a look at the campaign of Black Lives Matter. It was then that says you can, you know, galvanize the support through the world via technology, meaning that there's an opportunity that lies with technology, Balisa.
Yeah, true. You know, just with that, I just want to say something, just, you know, just to sing a bit, you know, just to take you back. You know, I don't know if you know the song. That's my other career. I mean, I could have been a musician. You understand? But then again, the Soweto uprising was a series of demonstrations and protests led by black school children in South Africa that began on the morning of 16th June in 1976. And if I can remember, I was just a year old by then, you know.
Oh, wow.
So I did experience, you know, all the protests, you know, when I was growing up. And
I'm sure you were standing out naked and looking.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Imagine.
But
you
I
didn't even know what was happening, I'm sure.
Sure. And right then, Soweto, we've got the museum, the Hector Peterson Museum. And it is a large museum, you know, located right then in Soweto, in Orlando, in South Africa, 2 blocks away from where Hector Peterson was shot and killed on the 16th of June in 1976, and a few blocks from my home, of course, where I grew up in Soweto. And the museum is named in his honor, Hector Peterson, and covers the events of the anti-apartheid Soweto uprising, where more than 170 protesting schools children were actually killed. That's what happened then in 1976.
It was a very, very strange and painful day for South Africa, I can imagine. It was a day that we need to continue to commemorate, you know. Looking at today's dates and looking at how young people actually maybe do not recognize much of the efforts and the lives of people that died that day. I mean, people would actually think that on June 16, it was Hector Peterson who passed away. Actually, it was more than almost 499 people that were actually killed on from that day going forward, because the June 16 uprising did not only last for one day, it continued for many more other days. I mean, it spread from the east to the west of Soweto. From there, it went to KwaZulu-Natal, it went to Cape Town. South Africa was on fire. South Africa was on fire.
Talking about young people today, what pains me is I'm not sure if maybe young people are aware of the price that was paid, you know, the bloody price that was paid, where young people, students, people died back in the days, you know, from 1976, all because of the freedom that they want, that young people are actually enjoying today. A hefty price was paid. Even our Mama Madikizela Mandela always reiterated that, guys, a painful price was paid. We've got people like Hector Peterson that actually died, Tsietsi Mashinini that went missing, Solomon Mahlangu. And I remember one of Solomon Mahlangu's message, right? He had said, as the young men and as all of them were lined up to be hanged, and Solomon Mahlangu said, my blood shall nourish the freedom of South Africa. You know, she said, tell my children, tell my people that my blood will nourish the tree of freedom. So it is that message actually that I always remember that he said, you know what, today these young people are actually not realizing the freedom that they are actually celebrating, that a hefty price was paid. So June 16 is not only about celebrating, and yes, we are enjoying now and people are actually celebrating Youth Day, but remember and get yourself informed, what is that Youth Day all about, and how come we have this Youth Day, what it means.
The actual meaning of it, not just by what was written, but what it means in today's life, what it means to the people of South Africa, what it means to people of Africa as a whole. I mean, the entire Africa was behind us during that time, and we also want to let people know that, you know, during that day, these young people, they literally just gave out their lives. They were like, it's do or die. They knew when they were going there, they were going to be, because, I mean, during that time, the apartheid police officers, they were not shooting with rubber bullets. They were not shooting with water. They were literally just using live ammunition. So they knew that if I wake up today and go out to fight, I may not come back home. Yes. I can imagine the pain that was being felt by the mothers that had to sit at home and wait for a call to come identify the body of your own child, or sit there and hope, is my child ever coming home? Yes. Because as you mentioned, Mashinini has never been found, was never found for a very, very long time. So it's one of those things that, you know, we have to sometimes sit and realize that freedom was never free. The freedom that we received was not a free, you know, it didn't just come free for all. Other people died, other people lost their children, other people lost their mothers. So it was really a very, very painful day that day. Having said that, let us go to a very, very short break. When we come back, we'll give you more, and definitely the headlines. As we say, this is June 16 Special.
The coronavirus outbreak.
Experience the extraordinary.
Tremendous waste and tremendous fraud.
Mexico is, in fact,
You will soon find out.
It is a day to celebrate.
We don't approve at all what's going on.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily unusual.
Challenge your ordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality here has had no plan.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat.
Welcome back again. If you have just joined us, we welcome you. We are right here on Pan-African Morning. This is Galaxy News on Channel 500 on StarSat. Now let's go straight to the headlines. Free State ANC welcomes a district development model, and 3 Northwest teachers tested positive for COVID-19. Ramaphosa sends piece of legislation back to Parliament. ANC supporters pickets outside Luthuli House, and also Gauteng police arrested a man who killed and stabbed a woman. These are the stories that we had for you, and of course we have some more stories for you. The the African National Congress Provincial Executive Committee in the Free State has welcomed the national government initiative of introducing the district development model. The organization viewed this initiative as a progressive model which will usher its seamless approach in provision of service delivery and dealing away with silo planning. We will await the announcement of President Cyril Ramaphosa to announce ministers who will be champions of district development model and provide sustained support towards success of the party, said the statement. The provincial structure further reflected on the reopening of schools and welcomed the level of preparations to ensure the safety of the learners, teachers and their general staff. Adding that they believe that the reopening of schools on the basis of phase-in approach starting in grade 7 and 12 learners will allow assessment and to find a good balance between safety and curriculum development. The ANC leaders and employees created a moment to visit a number of schools during the opening and discovered a positive general feeling of learners to go back to school and readiness for the new normal. The ANC instructed its employees in government to attend to loose ends and present comprehensive report to the ANC PEC. We support the view of the learners, and the learners educators must go back to school, an environment that it is conducive and safe, the party said in a statement. At the same time, the PEC has discussed a placement of Mafube local municipality in Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality and Matsimaholo local municipality and Maludi a local municipality on Section 139. A detailed report on status of these municipalities will be tabled with a view of further understanding implications of its decision. The Northwest Education Department has confirmed that 3 of its teachers within the province have tested positive for COVID-19. It is said that these 3 teachers were not feeling well, they were later sent to the nearest hospital that they confirmed positive for COVID-19. It's barely 2 days since the teachers reported back to school. The Provincial Education MEC, Mampefo Matsemela, indicated that by the time learners returned to school, 2 of the infected teachers were already not at school. As a department, I wish to confirm that there are 3 teachers who were tested positive for COVID-19 in various provinces. I therefore wish them to fight for recovery for these teachers, including all those people who might have came into contact with them. I want to indicate that 2 of these teachers, when learners returned to school, they were already booked off by the doctors. As a department, we will continue to provide them with our support while they receive medical attention at home, said the MEC Matsimela. MEC Matsimela further highlighted that they are working very closely with the Department of Health in the province. After affected 3 schools have been shut down by the Department of Health, and the date of reopening will be communicated once they have been disinfected and decontaminated. But Lisa, it is quite very, very disheartening to hear that, the schools just opened and of course the teachers are testing positive. But the mini positive part of it is that the teachers that tested positive. They were not at school yet before they were in contact with the children. So before returning to school, they were tested, which is what we want to clarify to make sure that people don't get freaked out to say, oh, our children and blah, blah, blah. But actually...
But people will get freaked out, Susanda. People will get freaked out because at the end of the day, like I said, you know, earlier on in the week, that we are actually gambling with our children's lives here.
That's very true.
My take is, you know what, just stay away. There should be home learning.
Yes.
And, you know, just this whole year,
Yes.
I think the government must relook at, you know, the government must actually relook at, you know, asking, opening up the education system.
Yes.
It must just be a stay away, and they must spend the rest of this year, the rest of these 6 months, you know, re-looking at COVID-19 and the school education.
Yes.
So basically this year it must just be a pass one, pass all system. That's what happened in 1976. Going back to 1976, when there was a stay away, there was this system that pass one, pass all. So the whole country should actually now go back, you know, after these 6 months of planning, for the kids to maybe go back to school next year, and there must be this pass one, pass all. Still, my view.
For COVID-19, there may not be even that pass one, so they might fail one, fail all.
No, they will have these 6 months of planning and, you know, getting to educate, you know, our children. That is my take, not Galaxy views.
No, that's
just
for
to
sure.
make sure I get paid at the end of the month.
Yes,
you know, my view, Palliser's views.
We'll have to feature that, I'm sure. The National Union of Mine Workers of South Africa welcomed the decision of the Labour Appeal Court, which found in favour of the union on the issue of compulsory balloting before a strike. The Appeal Court found that the NUMSA is not required to hold a secret ballot before engaging in protected strike action. The appeal court overturned 2 incorrect judgments by Gash of the Labour Court in KwaZulu-Natal, where the judge wrongly indicated 2 strikes involving the union in March 2019. The application to interdict the strikes, the strikes, were brought by 2 companies, the Fosco and Mahleber in KwaZulu-Natal. The strikes started a week apart in both companies. It just so happened that also happened that in both cases they are centered on question of compulsory balloting before a strike. It was the first test case of the amendments to the Labour Relations Act, forcing unions to bail out workers before a strike. When the matter was heard at the Labour Court, Judge Gash granted the interdict to both companies on the basis that we had not been balloted before the strike. However, the decision has now been overturned by the LAC. The judgment found that he misunderstood the LRA amendments of 2018 and unjustifiably limited our right to strike. Listen to the following voice clip from the union.
NUMSA press statement dated 15 June 2020. LAC confirms that unions do not have to ballot before a strike. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa welcomes the decision of the Labour Appeal Court, which found in favour of the union before a strike. The Appeal Court found that NUMSA is not required to hold a secret ballot before engaging in protected strike action. The Appeal Court overturned 2 incorrect judgments by Judge Gash of the Labour Court in KwaZulu-Natal, where the judge wrongly interdicted 2 strikes involving the union in March 2019. We, as NUMSA, welcome this decision, particularly because the LAC found that a secret ballot was not required because the registrar had not consulted with NUMSA and had not issued any directive to it to amend its constitution to provide for a secret ballot. This is a significant victory for the union and for the working class in general. It basically means that until the registrar complies with the terms of Section 19 of the Labour Relations Act as amended, members of the South African working class may embark on strike action without being forced to ballot first. This was not the only victory that we secured. Subsequent to the strike action at both companies, We were also able to make significant gains for our members at both companies. At Mahlebe, for example, on the issue of transport allowance, we managed to not only negotiate an agreement, but also to ensure that our members were able to actually get an increase in that allowance. At Fourscore, our members who'd been on strike over profit sharing received their profit share, and furthermore, the issue of health and safety was finally properly addressed by the management of the company. We won on issues of the right to strike, and we won on the demands of workers. This is truly a victory for our members and the working class at large. This victory has inspired us to work even harder.
President Cyril Ramaphosa had referred another piece of legislation back to Parliament. The President said that the bill could impact the making of traditional beer and in so doing affect rural communities. The Constitution requires the President to send back any legislation that he feels it's unconstitutional back to Parliament. In the case of Liquor Products Amendment Bill, Ramaphosa said that the inclusion of traditional African beer would have an impact on its production, consumption and the dissemination, as well as thus impacting the communities. He said that any bill pertaining to customary law or customs should be referred to the National House of Traditional Healers. Meanwhile, Ramaphosa had also pleaded with South Africans to be steadfast and stand strong against COVID-19.
Fundamentally, society needs what I would call a mindset change. This will not happen without a concerted public education campaign that will help to change entrenched attitudes. Young people must become involved in the Alliance's anti-racism campaign and participate fully in all the planned activities. While campaigning against racism and gender-based violence, we must also ensure that we heed public health and safety measures to prevent the spread of the virus. Coronavirus will be with us for the foreseeable future. It has in many ways changed the world fundamentally and has forced us to adapt to new ways of living, working and socializing. Our country must remain steadfast in our efforts to fight against the pandemic. We have had to take extraordinary measures to delay the spread of the virus, including the closure of our borders and a nationwide lockdown. For 66 days, our economy was at a virtual standstill.
ANC supporters protested just outside Luthuli House amidst President Cyril Ramaphosa's Youth Day address. The president is expected to deliver a June 16 commemoration. The picket was party's campaign to call on all sectors of society to unite and intensify the fight against racial prejudice. Did I say it right?
It's prejudice.
Prejudice. Thank you so much. It happens to the best of us, but thank you so much. Yeah. And as we still continue with this morning's bulletin, the Gauteng police have apprehended a man who allegedly killed and dumped a woman under a tree in Dobsonville in Soweto. The man appeared in the Roodepoort Magistrate Court on Monday, and he's facing charges of murder. Tshepo Mashego was arrested after he allegedly killed the unidentified woman elsewhere and dumped her body in Dobsonville on Friday. The Unemployment Insurance Fund has appointed the auditor to follow money trail. The department has auctioned these drastic measures upon realizing there were companies stealing COVID-19 payouts meant for workers. It is alleged that there are companies that have not paid the workers what is due to them, and we are aware of some of the companies allegedly loaning employees the monies, and that is not legal. We are also aware to other companies that they are allegedly paying part of the money and not the full amount, as well as companies using the money for something else and other than the intended purpose, said the Minister of Employment and Labour, Tula Singesi, in a statement. And workers who are put on leave have been laid off temporarily and whose employers can't afford to pay their full salaries due to the coronavirus crisis are entitled to COVID-19 temporary employment and employee relief scheme. There we go again, Sisanda. Truly so, you know. Earlier on, I think we were talking about looting, you know, looting the money of the state because of this COVID-19, that a whole lot of departments are now coming out and stealing the money, looting the money, knowing that, you know, this money will be unaccounted for. Because remember, when COVID-19 was announced, you know, it was actually not planned. It was something that we all, you know, got surprised. And departments had to take out money, you know, and those monies didn't actually go to the intended people. So
yes. And so it's very much sad to also hear that there are employers that actually applied for their employees and they not giving the money to the employees, they are rather keeping the money for themselves. And it's very painful to hear such because, I mean, everybody is suffering. We understand. Life is difficult. Things are very hard. But, I mean, I think it's even more harder for the employees that work from hand to mouth on a daily basis. And now there's totally nothing coming out. And if that whatever comes out, the employees or the employers actually take that from them. It is really unfair. And
yesterday now we also talked about the 350 grants, you know, that were declined by SASSA. So now my issue is, if SASSA declines more than 500 applications, so now where is that money going back to? What is the money going to be used for?
You know, another thing that is quite very painful about South African system when it's come to these grants and everything is that even on the normal SASSA grants for children, there's so many ghosts. Government is paying billions of rands to give to people that are actually not real people. So one person would have like 5 different children that the person is collecting grant for. Meanwhile,
saying 5, it was actually more than that. There was one guy who was caught with at least 50 SASSA cards to himself. So all these government people are actually registering ghost people and families that are not existing. And at the end of the month, you find that government official ends up getting about 80,000 rands, you know, all to himself.
Imagine. And you find that there are children that are really in greater need of these facilities and they are not able to access them because there are those that are quite very much greedy and besides being greedy, they're criminals, you know, because that's theft. They're criminals. They're stealing from the hungry children out there. They're stealing from mostly deserving children and you know, keeping for themselves and continuing to do this. And it's very unfortunate that the people that are doing this are people that are already in the government, people that are supposed to be helping out, you know. And I wish there must be
government that we voted, you know, in this place.
There must be very strong penalties for what the people are doing, I mean, for those crimes. Maybe we can take a very short break. When we come back, we've got more stories to come. Stay with us.
People passed, people ran away, and this kid innocently raised his fist in a black power sign and said, "Power to this passing hippo." The hippo stopped there on the spot and they opened fire on this 8-year kid. When I went to the mortuary on the weekend, I saw this kid at the mortuary. She was riddled with bullets beyond recognition. The black student in South Africa is being fed the type of education that will domesticate him to become a better tool for the white man when he joins the working community. School libraries, school books, they've got nothing to do with civics or anything that is affiliated in any manner to politics. What happens is we are fed a lot of fiction stories. I could quote so many authors in fictitious writers that you would be surprised where I get them. Even our libraries are ill-equipped. You don't get much works on, say, democracy, communism, fascism, capitalism, and all that. We only know these things as concepts and something not within our world.
It's more than likely, Tsetse, that you're being described up and down the country at the moment as a communist.
There is no truth in that as far as I'm concerned. It is just that in South Africa, if you're not doing what the government expects you to do, then you are a communist, of course.
As we interviewed Tsetse Mashinini, the news came in of how successful the students' plan had been.
It makes me very happy, very happy.
What is it actually achieving now?
The idea is we blacks in South Africa do not have arms, and the only thing we can hit at the system with is just to cripple the economy of the country and make our faint cries reach the ears of the authorities. Because apparently if we demonstrate, they just shoot at us. And if they don't shoot, they detain a whole lot of students. Now we are trying to be as peaceful as possible. Detain the parents at home, and the parents are with us and they're prepared to stay at home as long as the students want them to stay at home. Now, with this, we believe the authorities will feel the pinch, and some way or the other, they'll have to succumb to our demands.
The coronavirus outbreak.
Experience the extraordinary.
Tremendous waste and tremendous fraud. Mexico is, in fact, you will soon find out.
It is a day to celebrate.
We don't approve at all what's going on.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily unusual.
Challenge your ordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality here has had no plan.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat.
Sanbonani Lochani, hello. My name is Sifiso Mahlangu. In my career, I've always desired to tell stories of excellent black people. I've always wanted to paint a picture that men in this country protected their women, that we're an excellent group ready for transformation. I've always wanted to be recorded as a man who loved his children, who protected his parents, who believed in transformation and who believed in the rights of women in this country. But tonight, my heart is saddened. South Africa is facing two challenges tonight, two pandemics. One, the coronavirus pandemic that has gone rampant across the world, and two, the attack on women in this country. Across the world, women suffer, but in South Africa, they are beaten, they are bruised, and they are murdered. Murdered often by men they once loved, men they called their husbands, their lovers, and their boyfriends. I'm calling on all of us men to take a step and to not look away. If you know that your friend abuses his wife, don't look away. If you know that your comrade, your politician, your pastor, your boss, your leader, anyone you know, your neighbor, abuses his wife, his child, beats up his family, don't look away. It's time we say it is enough, South Africa. Let us refuse to turn a blind eye and look away. If it's happening in my neighbor, it's happening in my street, it's happening with someone I know, a family I know, I'm calling on all of us to take a bold step of faith and to refuse that this virus continues to eat at our family, this virus called gender-based violence. Let us all refuse to look away. Let us take the step to put an end to gender-based violence in our community. It starts with me. It starts with you.
Welcome back. You're still with us right here on the Pan-African Morning on Galaxy Universal TV right here on Channel 500 Starset. As we continue with this morning's bulletin, earlier on we showed you a video of Utsietsi Mashinini, who was also one of the cadres earlier on in the 1976, but who got missing. But then this morning on our show, we've got Upra Paul Mulife, who will also take us through what happened in the days of 1976 during apartheid. And Tate Paul Mulife, welcome back. You know, I'm sure today, you know, is a very touching day for you. You know, as I spoke to you during the break, I could see that you almost, you know, shed a tear. Can you take us through, you know, the 1976, your memories of what happened? And like I said, we also showed a video of Utsietsi Mashinini. What do you know about him? And Abo Solomon Mahlangu. Can you take us through to, you know, what happened then?
Good morning, and thank you for this great baby that is actually embracing some of the countries that actually, you know, a harbor, you know, and accommodated our brothers and sisters. And like a country like Tanzania, as you say, as you mentioned, but the most profound thing is that, you know, in 1960, I was 8 years old when we witnessed the massacre of 1960. In 1976, to me, that was now the last page that actually opened, you know, so many opportunities for us. Because after 1960, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma was 17 years of age. At that time, when she actually went into exile, she had to actually represent South Africa against apartheid at the United Nations. Now, that picture is so important. Because even Babu Nzima, I'm very, very happy. And you know, you actually brought tears on the day you interviewed the very son, Tate Thulani Nzima. Because the late Uncle Sam was saying, when he captured that shot, that appears on every newspaper globally, let alone even TV networks, he actually took it immediately because he was surrounded by police. But he cunningly, you know, hid that film in his socks and immediately put in another, you know, film and continue shooting. But after 2 hours, the police came to him and say, on the die film. And he didn't even hesitate. He just opened his camera and he gave it to them. But what I'm saying is that that very picture, it says the media, you know, has got the power to liberate people against all emotions you can buy. But the mighty of the pen, the mighty of the picture has actually set us to be where we are today. And I thank God that I was in Morogoro when we buried the late President Julius Mwalimu, which simply means teacher in Swahili, that we managed to go to Morogoro. And again, you know, we shared tears when we saw our brothers and sisters' graves, not far from Solomon Mahlangu's college. And ANC has always, you know, stood firm on doing things on their own. They actually, you know, got money from the donors. They had farms there. We saw graves of our brothers and sisters. And that college, it's still in existence. And it still continues to produce one of the best leaders. Some of the leaders that from Solomon Mahlangu are members of parliament in Tanzania. So we owe it.
Who Solomon Mahlangu, you know, tell the viewers who Solomon Mahlangu was, because there's a song that says Solomon Mahlangu was a cadre, was of Umkhonto Wesizwe, right? Wabulawa Mabhunu, South Africa, you know. Yeah, and now you're also talking about a school that was built in Morogoro in Tanzania, you know, in honor of Solomon Mahlangu.
Yes. I think Solomon Mahlangu, Tsietsi Mashinini, Khotso Siatlulo, you know, and some of the cadres really, I think they were ahead of the time. These guys could actually see, you know, the future. And you know, it's a rare gift from God that somebody should be able to see 2030, you know. And when everybody else see dark cloud, but somebody says, you know, out of that dark cloud, I see hope, you know, and I see success. Just like, you know, you, Miss Sanda, you know, many people thought you'll never ever make it. But here we are, you know, transmitting through Tanzania, Zambia, and all these countries are the ones that actually must be gratified to say, here it's South Africa. They've sacrificed, through the set television, they're actually embracing us. And Solomon Mahlangu is one of those, but we should never ever forget that there are teachers like Curtis Nkondo, who was the principal at Maurice Isaacson, Fanyana Maziboko. These are the people who actually planted a seed politically that guys...
Oprah Paul is actually mentioning other people and other fighters, freedom fighters that we didn't know, that we didn't hear about. Abo Solomon Mahlangu, Abo Tsietsi Mashinini, you know what I mean? Yeah, because like you said earlier on, Paul, the media back in the days was hiding so much information to an extent that they went to as far as banning a picture of Nelson Mandela. We did not know when we were growing up who Nelson Mandela was, because the picture, the photos of Nelson Mandela were actually banned. You would actually be arrested for having or talking even about the name of Nelson Mandela, Abo Walter Sisulu, Abo Oliver Tambo. You know what I mean? So that was what the media did back in the days.
Yes. I actually have a question for Mr. Molefe. I mean, you mentioned that in 1960 you were only 8 years when the first massacre that happened. Now, in 1976, I would like to believe you were just a little bit older by that time. How was that day to you? Because we understand that it all started in Soweto, but it spread all across the country. And of course, outside of the country as well, people were coming together with South Africa. For you to be there in those days, even though you were not at the school where the incident happened, how was the mood?
I think, it's very funny how, our people have been gifted. The message was so secretly disseminated that in the VAR, because that's where I was at the time, we were already marching too. And we were led by people, some of them have never gained in the struggle, but they have been spearheading, almost everything in the struggle. The Nkutshweu, Vosi Chabalala, Ndala Chakela, and almost at that time, MC Sandra Palisa, what was frustrating that even adversity, those of our generation who were adversity, when they arrive at adversity, no matter how brilliant they were, but they would be told by professors to say, you can't take engineering. You can't take, this science subject, but you must just take simple BA, you must take simple theology, otherwise you will the land warfare, that you want to conquer the country.
In schools, we were taught, what is this dressing? Like we were taught how to sew, doing hand. Was it
dressmaking or woodwork? Those are the things. But coming back to your question, Sandra, what was amazing is that we actually marched, and in the evening we were all in Soweto, and we met the late Dr. Tandin Glove. They were actually weeping, and some of the ladies, Bongi Mkabela, to say the very first victim of 1976 was the late Dr. Tandin Glovu's brother. But because the press was there, and Babu Sem, when they captured that photo, Hector Peterson was actually arguably the first victim, but the very real first victim was, the late Dr. Tandin Glovu's. But nevertheless,
what was his name? The name of the first victim.
I can't recall the name, but I know that for the fact that
yeah, for sure, it's
and it's a pity that Granny Siabe, the sister to the late Dr. Tandi, is still grateful to say, let alone that history continues to remind us where we come from. So really, I'm just saying that our young generation must never ever cease to lose this opportunity, because it comes once. That's why they say lost opportunity shall never be regained.
Yes.
So today it gratifies me to see young, gifted, black women like yourself leading this organization, leading other organizations, and we are here to support you to eternity. Because one day if I close my eyes, I'll close my eyes with total contentment, knowing to say, you know what, the generation that came after me did marvelous things, did wondrous things, and they've upped the bar than where we are.
It actually goes back to the question that I wanted to ask you, to say, do you think the youth of today, they are anywhere in match of the youth of 1976? Are we moving in the right direction? Are we fighting? Of course we are fighting different struggles, but are we fighting with that contempt and you know, drive, the same drive that was driving the youth of 1976?
I think, you know, the youth of today, they are more interested in looking the lifestyle from the television set, the soapies.
True.
They are not aware to say education will liberate your mind. And if your mind is liberated, nothing can stop me in achieving anything you want to achieve in life. And to me, it's very, very important that they need to realize that they must spread their wings. That if you pass matric, you must have, as you do your final matric, start making sure that you send some application for scholarship abroad. There's nothing that is going to open your mind and your eyes than making sure that even if you complete your degrees, pursue your academic, you know, and make sure that at the end of the day, you're going to become what you want to become.
Yeah.
Because the world is open now, and everybody is embracing South Africa. We are so blessed, and we are so blessed, ladies, that, you know, when you go out, you start realizing how blessed you are. You go to Canada, they embrace you. You go to wherever, they embrace you. So I think, to me, is we need many doctors. We need, you know, so many, you know, people in various fields, engineering. We need people who can be more innovative. I mean, look at Rwanda.
Young black people are actually not making use of those opportunities because, as you said
Yes.
earlier on, Paul, back
Yes.
in the days, a black child was not allowed to take such studies, you know, to be an
Exactly.
engineer, to be doctors, to be accountants. Those were only studies that were meant for a white child. At that time, they were privileged. But then now that we, as black children, our children are actually privileged to make use of such opportunities and take education serious.
But I think what you should remember is that no matter what qualification we have obtained in life, always remember that you are standing upon the shoulders of great men and women. Some did not finance you financially, but they've been praying for you. Some have never, right, contributed anyhow, anyway, but they've been your role model, indirectly or directly. So whatever you have, you know, my mother said something so profound to me. He said, my son, if the 4 or 5 of you have obtained diplomas or matric, you know, whatever qualification or degrees, but you cannot, the 5 of you, take one black child to college or university, never ever be proud about the education you have achieved. So that is what gives me what the Jewish speaks about, chutzpah, courage, to say, Paul, what is it that we have done for a black child? And each time when I go through rural areas, it actually haunts me even more to say, look at our people. What are we doing? You know, so to me, if we can all have that spirit of uplifting each other once you're alive, then I think the future is so great. I mean, look, the entire team that we work with here, it's a young, gifted me. And I always, you know, become so emotional to say, Heavenly Father, I think I'm so blessed that here is a clear, you know, testimony that this young generation, you know, is really, you know, blessed with vision that cannot be compared by my generation.
You know, maybe before we close, Paul, I would have loved to hear first your message to an African child out there. Obviously not just, you know, South African children, but a message to their African child. One of the reasons why I would like to hear your message to the African child, it is based on the fact that you mentioned earlier that, you know, those, I could call them Model C qualifications where, you know, my qualifications of medicine, you know, your engineering and stuff like that was not accessible to black people. It was only the white people that had to do that. But yet, we had the likes of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma that out of that pain, out of that struggle, she went on and studied, and she became a medical doctor, even studying outside of the country. It's unfortunate now I have to mention another person who's a Zuma as well. Baba Jacob Zuma, people do not know. They say he's only got a standard 2, but he can actually speak fluent French, fluent Russian, fluent Spanish, and these are the language, Afrikaans, English, these are the languages, and Swahili as well. These are the languages that actually he learned throughout the pain. I want to know that the struggle we're facing today, what is it that we can do through the struggle?
I think the mind, the more it faces challenges, it actually creates miraculous decisions. Dr. Nkosazana Zuma could speak Swahili fluently. The late Dr. Mantu Msimang studied medicine in Russian lingo, right? Our present Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, can speak French. The president of veteran, right, Dr. Snuki Zigalala, could speak Russian very fluent. So what I'm saying is that because they were in the struggle, they actually psychologically told themselves to say, against all odds, I am going to become what I want to become. So all I'm saying is that the youth of today never miss an opportunity, because each one of you have been blessed with a certain seed. And no one can become a carbon copy of Sisanda. She's unique, she's got her own gift, and it's from God given. So if you want to actually become a carbon copy of Sisanda, you're gonna miss your gift. So stay on your own rail, because God has blessed you with something extraordinary. And it is the only way that you can actually hold hands one another. If you achieve something, let us compliment one another. Let us not compete with each other. But if we compete each other, that's where now we're going to come to a standstill. But if we continue to complement each other, then you will see Africa rising to a superlative degree that will never be understood, but really be admired by the world.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much, Brother Paul, for that wisdom, for those wise words. We are going to be taking a short break. So just before I go on a break, I just want to close off with the words of Solomon Mahlangu, that said that my people shall be free, and tell my people that my blood shall nourish the tree of freedom. Stay tuned.
Great words.
Is we are black, our only sin is we are black, our only sin. What have we done? What have we done? What have we done? What have we done? Sono se tu,
Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another.
Let's
Hey, wait up! I want an ID parade now.